Yeehaw, boo-ha, footballio, touchdown run. Oh, please, great and good and powerful Blitz 2000 gods, bestoweth upon me the perfect speed. Oh, I didn't see you there. Well, if you're hanging out, then maybe we'll do something a little different today. We're going to analyze the 3:58 world record speed run. World record at time of recording anyway. And we're going to go through an in-depth analysis of everything that happened, play-by-play breakdown of all the mechanics and the strategies. So without further ado, let's get started. We're going to just go over the rules real quick, make sure we're all on the same page. So in order to do the speed run, here's how it works. You got to have 1 minute quarters, no power-ups, and you got to win the game. Timer starts when you pick your team and ends when the clock hits 0 in the 4th quarter and the ball is dead. And if you're running on an emulator, you got to let them know, which I'm not. I'm running on OG hardware over here. And we'll start the video. So I'm going to go into the options. I'm going to show everyone that I am doing the easy difficulty, 1 minute quarters, and we turn the help boxes off and the play timer off. I'm going to kind of speed run through this stuff real quick, and I'm going to select the Packers. I like the Packers because, well, needs no explanation. And then you'll also notice that when I select it, it kind of lights up the Green Bay thing, the Green Bay text, and then you'll see the speed run timer start. So we're on the clock now. This is the power up screen, code entry area, whatever. And this is where you could click A, B, or turbo, enter power-ups, but you can't do that. And we're going to receive the ball here. So you see me run around like that a little bit. And the reason that I run around like that is because the opponents, they kind of track your movement a little bit. So if you run one way, they kind of mirror that. So if you squiggle around, they're a little more likely to run into one of my blockers and lock with them a little bit. And when they're locked, it gives me a little bit of time to run like this. And then as they catch up with me, you're going to see me do a slide tackle. And the slide tackle buys you about 2 seconds of in-game time where the opponents will kind of circle around you, but they won't be able to tackle you. So it just helps to extend the play out a little bit if you need to. Oh, and we just saw the playbook right there. So the playbook, I've set up a custom first page of my playbook where it's just all one play. The only reason is because I like the play. I think it's a good play. And if I accidentally like do joystick down or something like that, then I'll still be able to know that I'm going to get the same play. And I'd like to do a second and third page in case I accidentally hit Z and flip to that page. I can still just know that I'm going to hit the same play. And I've also experimented with doing custom plays where you actually build your own play. Some of them are pretty effective, but you can't put them on your first page. So you have to like scroll to page 3, I think. But the time it takes, even if you're fast, like I haven't been able to come up with a play that saves more time than you accrue by selecting it. We are going into our first play here. And you're going to see me try and backpedal a whole bunch. And I'm going to try and get an incomplete pass. And when I throw the ball there, there's a couple different kinds of throws you can do. If you have turbo left over, you can hold turbo and you can do a faster pass. But since I'm trying to eat up as much in-game clock as possible, I'm not going to do that. So I'll backpedal with my turbo, and then I'll try and like regain a little bit of turbo so I can backpedal more at high speed in case the attackers get close to me. But when I actually go for the pass, I always release turbo if I can. So that way I get the ball in the air as long as possible and just eat down more of that in-game timer. And again, we're going for an incomplete here, but we got the complete pass. That's okay. Another little detail I want to draw attention to is that when a play is over, typically what happens is once the ball is dead, the camera will kind of pan around for a little while. But the game has this feature built in where if you hold down A, B, and Z, that animation where the camera pans around when the play's over, it gets cut short. And there's also a little sound that accompanies it. It's like, it's that sound. So if you hear that sound, that means that I got it. So I call that a skip. Sometimes I manage to get it kind of fast, and I call that a fast skip. We'll talk about that later maybe. And then sometimes I get it really, really fast, and I call that an animation cancel, and we'll see that later in this game too. Okay, so now we're on play 2, and we're gonna really hope for an incomplete pass here, and we're also hoping to backpedal as far as we can. Good incomplete pass, there's kind of a strategy for it. So it's good. I like getting in the corner like that where this big clump, ball's more likely to pop out of bounds or someone's more likely to pop out of bounds. But for an incomplete pass, I'm going to go back a little bit and we might be able to see what I'm talking about. Okay, it's pretty hard to see what I'm talking about, but after the ball has been thrown, you can hit the A button. It usually selects the receiver. And when that happens, if you also hold down turbo, I found that it seems like it increases the odds of a complete pass. So in order to get an incomplete pass, I always ensure that I don't do those things. So as this goes on, and if you ever hear me call out that I'm going for an incomplete pass here, kind of look out for that. See if you can see whether or not I'm selecting the receiver, and you can tell because there's that little like blue circle beneath the selected player. And we're going into play 3, so we're going to see a touchdown here. And this is going to be a 0-second touchdown. This is what I call the lumber strats. That's kind of my strategy, is to try and get a touchdown right at 0 seconds on the clock. I think that it's a little riskier, but I think that there's a little more reward. As the game progresses, you'll see another strat called Smitty Strats, what I call Smitty Strats. And they're highly effective too. They held the world record at 4 minutes and 1 second for about a year, which is really awesome. So when you combine them, I call it the hybrid strat, and that's the one that is here. It's a little bit of lumber, it's a little bit of Smitty. All right, so I'm going for the touchdown here. And we're at 1 second, that's looking really good. So we still got 1 second on the clock. It means that, hold up, you don't want to hit that goal yet. You want to wait and see that 1 second. Oh, I can frame by frame it here. And now that we're at 0, I move up. And I get tackled.
Okay. This one might look a little slow, but we're actually going to be just fine.
And the reason I say that it looks a little slow is because the Smitty strats can buy you time in different places. So I did the Smitty strat on the run that this is comparing against, and it bought me some time in the first quarter. But in this round, I did the lumber strat, so it lost me a little bit of time in that first quarter. But we're going to regain that right away in the next one. So that's why I just made that kind of clarification that I think we're doing okay, actually.
This one might look a little slow, but we're actually going to be just fine. And it's only 2. Nice.
And all those animations right there, they also would normally take a lot of time. But if you do the animation skip with ABZ, you just hold it down or you mash it, it can make those go a lot faster. Okay, so we've just had a kickoff. The opposing team is going to receive, and they're just going to run it right back. You'll see all my guys dive away, try to get out of the way, build a channel for him.
Nice.
And then what you're going to see is all my players are going to start to crowd up on this guy. And the reason that they're going to start crowding up on him is because there are a few ingredients to make the animation cancel happen. And I think the ingredients are that you need to mash the animation skip buttons, so that's A, B, Z, right at the moment that the ball is dead and the play is over, and that it increases the odds that it will happen if you have a bunch of players tackling, and it increases the odds a little more if all of those tackling players are on screen. Now, I don't know how much of that is true, but it seems to be that those ingredients add to a good animation cancel, and we're going to see that here in just a moment. I'm going to go back. Now that was very fast. It just skipped right through. Everything happened really fast. So we can compare that to the first touchdown. Happens very fast. All right, now I'm going to receive. Score is now 7-7, and we're going to be going for the Smitty strat on this one. So that means that I'm going to try and score with about anywhere between like 8 to 13 seconds left on the clock after driving up the field a little bit and wasting the end game clock. You'll see me do that little zigzag wiggle. It's not going to work out too well though. I kind of get crushed there. Not a very good kickoff. So we're going to go into the drive here. I'm going to try and backpedal, but we only have 30 seconds on the in-game clock, so that's going to go fast. So I am going to try and drive up the field. I'm not going to be going for incomplete passes here. I want to drive. And sure enough, we get a really nice clean pass there. You're going to see me jump, and I'm actually trying to go out of bounds, and I don't manage to go out of bounds. You're going to see me try and get a touchdown with, somewhere between 8 and 13 seconds left on the clock. So it's pretty important. This is why Smitty strats are nice, because you have a little bit of wiggle room there. Gonna go for the throw right by about 15 seconds, get the touchdown at 12. That's pretty darn good. And leading into part 2 of the Smitty Strat, I'm going to dive all my guys away, wait for that clock to hit 0. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, so now we're going to see how close that really was. So our in-game timer is still reading 1. Still reading 1, still reading 1, still reading 1, still reading 1, and it hits 0 right there. There's, I mean, it's like, is that a frame? Maybe it's 2. I thought it was at least 2 frames, but that one looked more like 1 frame. Holy cow, let's take one more look at that. Next frame. 0. Next frame. And we're already getting the animation. I thought it was 2 frames. I'm still going to dedicate to 2 frames. So that was pretty close. Yeah. I'll post the halftime stats in the show notes of the video. And now that it's after the halftime, the opponent is going to receive the ball. So I'm going to give him that channel. I'm going to let all my guys run up on him. And I'm going to look for that animation cancel. I don't manage to get it. And I don't get a very good animation skip either. Now this is interesting right here. You don't get this very often. The CPU opponent has opted to do an onside kick. And I think it's really fun that that occurred in this speed run. I'm not really sure if it actually benefited that much or detracted that much. This is part of the video I just haven't spent time analyzing. Mainly because it's not something I want to rely on. I don't know what the statistics are for this to happen, but I feel like it's a once in a 10, once in a 20, maybe even once in a 30 game chance. And there's no telling when they're going to do it. I think it's worth practicing the play though. So if something like this does happen, like that, as it clearly has, then you can improvise. Now, that being said, I didn't practice it very much, and it's not the biggest deal to improvise. The thing you just got to be careful with is that a lot of the time the onside kick can result in a higher likelihood for a fumble. And if there's a fumble and the opposing team picks it up, the run's dead. All right, so here's what's going to happen. We'll go back and watch the whole thing. Now, when you see me running away like that, the reason that I'm running away right here, I'm kind of running in the opposite direction. Like I'm not running into the enemy. It's not just because I want to run down the in-game clock or that I want to avoid the opponent, which are part of the reasons. The main reason is that I think that the fumble is more likely to happen right after you pick up the ball or right when the onside kick occurs. So if you run away from the play and just buy yourself like 2 or 3 in-game seconds, maybe 4, then I think that the likelihood for that fumble drops way off. So then you can feel more comfortable. Yeah, pretty cool. Now we're going to go on to this offensive drive here, and we're just going to try and get some yardage. And this time we're going for the lumber strats. So we're going to try and get the clock to hit 0 seconds right at the touchdown. We're going to do another drive here. Taking up a lot of in-game time. Very good. And now we're going to try and get a touchdown, I think. Yes, so this is all the same play, yeah. And that was pretty good. I'm just going to go back just a little bit. We'll see how close it was. We're just going frame by frame real fast. Oh, a little juggle in there. And it took a couple of frames to register, but it did. Nice. Very lucky. So the receiver is going to get the ball here. And now the receiver is not really all the way on the left side, so it's kind of hard for me to build a left channel over there to kind of clear everyone out. Normally I'd build a left channel, if you will, by making everybody tackle to the right. And if I were to do that in this scenario, I got 1 or 2 players that might actually bump into the receiver. I don't want that. If I tackle the receiver, it's kind of an automatic end of run. So in order to reduce the likelihood that I'm going to tackle the receiver, you're going to see everybody tackling toward the camera, toward the receiver. And that's because I can kind of see where everybody is. I can kind of keep every one of my players in their own line. Like if you can think of you know, the line that you see, that kind of like dotted line that the receiver is running on, those yard markers. If you can imagine that each of my players has their own like kind of vertical line like that, I want to keep them in their channel. So instead of tackling left or right, I'm going to tackle forward or backward. In this case, I'm going to tackle forward. It certainly got close right there. And thankfully, I managed to get that channel through. I got my guys trailing him, trying to get that animation cancel, but I don't. So here I'm going to receive the ball, and when I received it, I was in the end zone, which means that I could get a touchback if I wanted to. And that happened earlier this game too. Now the touchback is pretty cool. It's a guaranteed going to the 20-yard line. It's also a guaranteed way to run out a lot of clock time. I opt not to do it here because despite those guarantees, which are really nice when you're working with a lot of RNG or random number generator or just randomness in a game, it's really nice to lock down any sort of guarantees, but you're only guaranteed to the 20-yard line, and you're only guaranteed, I don't remember, maybe like 10 or maybe 10 in-game seconds, maybe a little more. But at the end of the play, that animation that happens does not allow for the animation skip to occur for like 1 or 2 real world seconds, which costs a lot of time. And I've never had an animation cancel work on that. So you've got this slightly longer animation. You don't have a huge amount of in-game clock that you eat up, and you only get put to the 20-yard line. There's a chance I could make this play go past 10 seconds, get past the 20-yard line, giving me better field position, and I could get an animation skip that's a little faster, maybe even an animation cancel. So all of those things put together make it less likely for me to opt for a touchback. I'm not exactly sure what the circumstances would be for me to want to do that, but it is an option. You'll also see me run kind of laterally a lot. I tend to think that running laterally makes it more likely that these players are going to lock with each other a little bit. Also, it's just better to be. Also, it's just going to eat up more in-game time if you're running longer. So if I run right toward the opponents, they're more likely to tackle me. If I run laterally, they're less likely, or they have to spend more time running toward me. So that's more in-game clock I can eat up. And here I'm going to try and get some field position. I'm not really looking to run out the clock. It's going to run out all by itself. I just need to get close to that goal to give me better odds of getting a touchdown within that 8 to 13 second range, because we're doing those Smitty Strats on this round. Went right into this play, which is going into the touchdown. And we got that touchdown. Let me go back real quick. We got that touchdown with a nice 13 seconds left on the clock. It's right on the cusp for the strat to work. So because it's right at the higher end, we're going to see that opponent receive the ball, and we're going to see him get pretty close to getting a touchdown, but not quite. And that's going to lead us to the end of the game. So I'm building that channel for him. Clock's ticking down. I'm going to get my guys all up on him. And you're going to see, like I said, he's getting kind of close to the touchdown. If that was 14 seconds, he might have gotten it. Now I got the tackle here. We'll go. We'll just watch the whole thing here. All right, so I got a couple of things to explain. So I built that channel. I got my guys running up on him, try and get that cancel, which I don't end up getting. Now we're going to slow down here. Clock is at 1 second. Clock's going to hit 0. And you got all my guys coming in pretty much in the air by the time the clock is ticking to 0. And this is kind of fun. By virtue of the animation coming up here, arguably the game is technically over here at 3:58:56, but I don't have any sort of auto splitter, and I don't know anyone that's got any sort of way to set up an auto splitter for the end of game. There's a chance that I could use the auto splitter with this kind of screenshot, but there are circumstances where that may not be ideal. For example, if I finish with a lumber strat, that's going to finish on a touchdown, so that would be a different screenshot. And not every game is going to be the same. So if you dedicate to the lumber strat, or you dedicate to the Smitty strat, and then you fail to do that, you can still try the other strat and maybe make something of the run. That's actually how this run happened. I tried to do one strat, and then I ended up going back and forth, and now call it the hybrid strat. But if you do dedicate to one of them and you have your auto split set up for that one, and then you end up deciding that, oh, I can try and salvage this run with the other method or the other strat, your auto split is not going to get that. That could mess you up. So the game ends here. And the game is already over. The speed run, the ball is dead, the play is over. So just to review, some of the main things that we looked at were clock management. So making sure that the in-game clock is always eating away when you want it to, by making sure that you can try and get incomplete passes or complete passes by doing certain little techniques to increase or decrease those odds. Play stalling, so just backpedaling as much as you can, throwing a pass without using turbo to keep that ball in the air, anything to get that clock down. Or not even just keep it down, but to get it where you want it to be. So if you want it to end at 0 seconds, it does. If you want it to end at 7 or 8 seconds, it does. Controlling that is the main concept, or one of like the core things. Another thing, obviously, is just luck/RNG, which is random number generator, just randomness. So that's, even though we can try and control whether or not this pass is going to be incomplete, there's no telling whether or not it's really going to work out. So there could be an interception, there could be a fumble, there could be a tackle where you didn't want it, and all those things could ruin a run. So minimizing that is ideal. Then there's the animation skipping and canceling. That's just minimizing the time that an animation is happening. So that maximizes more time spent in the game while a play is live and the in-game clock is running down, which is good. And then there's the animation cancel, which just is like a really lucky, really fast animation skip. And then there's the custom playbook, which just goes right back to like RNG stuff. If you can reduce your RNG, if you can reduce any of the randomness, that's great. And having a custom playbook is, I think, the way to do that. It can guarantee that you always know where your players are going to be, when they're going to be there, and where your players are going to be, when they're going to be there. And you can set it up such that every single play on the first page, second page, or third page of your playbook is all the same play. So you always know that you're going to hit it, even if you accidentally move your joystick or go to the next page. Then there's the character Raiden that I play with. I don't remember exactly how to get there. I'll show it on screen, but you just go into the menu, arcade, and load the character Raiden, type in Raiden, and then you type in the code 3691. He's got a cool hat. Key observation, we don't have to look at any of that. Just a couple of things about jargon. So we talked about the animation cancel. We didn't talk about an audible, and an audible is just after you've initiated a play, you can change it after the play has started, but before you hike the ball. I've looked into doing that as kind of a backup option. So in case I select the wrong play, I can quickly go back, but it adds a little bit of time, and ultimately I think it'd be more viable to just make every play on all pages of your playbook the same play, rather than try and create a backup option if you select the wrong one, because that's just going to eat up more time. We talked about the custom playbook and skips, going out of bounds. I think sometimes it can lead to a faster skip. If you ever hear me say hold the line, it just means I'm talking about my defenders on fire. This is something we didn't really talk about. We don't see it, I don't think, really in any world record speed runs or any good ones, because being on fire, at least for Nintendo 64, adds a lot of lag, and it adds fast passes on every pass, which is just a recipe for a bad run. You want to have slow passes, and you want to have the game running without any lag. I think it might increase the odds of an animation cancel, but I don't think that it increases the odds enough to make it viable. It also requires that you either catch the ball with the right receiver on certain plays, which is kind of random based, not really reliable, or you have to sack the opponent more than once in a row. And there's no reason you should ever be sacking the opponent. You should always let them run it back for a touchdown. Passing, so the blitz pass, just controlling who you're passing it to using the C buttons, left, right, or up, I think it is. Throwing a complete pass, we talked a little bit about this. If you have some turbo, then you select the receiver and hold turbo, more likely to catch it. Incomplete passes, you just don't do that stuff. It's especially good when folks are clumped up around each other, although there is a little bit of a higher likelihood for an interception that way. Turbo pass versus regular pass. So yeah, the turbo pass versus regular pass, just fast pass versus a slow pass. The slide tackle we talked about, really nice mechanic. The skip we talked about. Then there's the sweet spot. So the lumber sweet spot is just when the in-game clock hits 0, right before the ball goes dead. And then the Smitty sweet spot is off screen, and I can't see it. There we go. The Smitty sweet spot is when the game has 8 to 13 seconds of in-game time left when a score occurs. And that's a little bit of jargon and some extra info for you if you wanted to know. So that is my analysis of the Nintendo 64 NFL Blitz 2000 3-minute 58-second speed run. Thanks for coming over to hang out with me today. My name is Lumber America, and I'll be seeing you on the field. Peace.